Okay, it's November 30th, and this is the meeting of the Wolfeboro Budget Committee. Tonight we're going to deal with the economic development, fire and emergency management, which includes ambulance service, fire and rescue, and emergency management, public safety building, and capital outlay. Bobby, if you could do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bobby. Mr. Town Manager, do you have anything to say before we start?
I don't.
Okay. I guess we'll jump right into the economic development, which is in the planning and zoning section, page 26. And who's going to talk to us about that tonight? Okay, this will be fast.
We can try to answer any questions, and I think some of the specifics Brian and or Linda can help you out with.
Should we send them a letter?
Oh, God.
Oh, don't get us started.
Okay, 100 series. That's just the secretary's salary, is that correct?
That's correct.
200 series, that's all zero. 300 series, outside services, and the fireworks. What's the story on the fireworks? When are those going to be? Those New Year's Eve or New Year's? Or?
Those were, but that's pulled out.
Okay, that's not there at all,
Zeroed
okay.
out. We'll go up. We have it set for this year. We've raised the money, and we'll just have to try to raise more money if we're going to have it next year. We just felt with the budget as high as it is that we can try to go out and do that.
Oh, very nice, thank you. 500 series. 600 series. And 800 series. And that's it on economic development, I believe.
5 minutes.
Under 5.
Good job, Bob.
Repeat that in the fire department.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the fire section.
So the first one is going to be ambulance service. I believe I did come into your meeting in July, briefed you on our situation with the ambulance service. Since that time, we've gone through, evaluated our options. We believe our best option right now is to continue with the contracted service at the increased cost. There is a warrant article that the Board of Selectmen is considering, which if they forward it, it'll come to you regarding the purchase of a used ambulance. We do have an RFP created for conducting an evaluation, independent evaluation of the plan that we've developed. However, with the budget freeze that's been put in place, that's not going to take place until the new budget in 2024, at which point we hope to be able to get that moving so that by the spring of 2024 we have an idea of what's the best direction to go moving forward. So there's not a lot to talk about related to fire-based EMS services. This is basically a contracted service similar to what we've operated for a number of years now.
For these people who provide the service, are they going to stay if we pay them this much money?
Yeah, that's the plan. They proposed being able to do a 2-year contract with us. I've got a meeting scheduled with them early next week.
So is there a possibility that they could continue after the 2 years?
I can't speak to that.
Okay.
What's the, just a general question, what's the trend around the state? I mean, people in the non-long haul ambulance service business are getting out of that and asking.
Are you
maybe
referring to
maybe
911
you know,
services?
They're asking municipalities to take it over?
Are you referring to 911 services?
Yeah.
Yes, that is the trend. Greater than 50% of the fire services in New Hampshire to provide fire-based ambulance services, and some of those to multiple communities.
Is that particular only to New Hampshire?
Gee, that's up your alley.
So when we,
It's not
not to
unusual.
belabor it, so when we see the business planning effort, we'll learn that it's not particular to New Hampshire.
No,
Okay,
I don't think so. What we see and hear in the industry magazines and stuff, it's
Yeah.
pretty similar around the country.
It's higher in mass, more fire-based.
Go ahead, Bobby.
I just wanted to ask Brian, what's happening with your friends of the ambulance? Will they be maybe helping support the contract?
I'm trying to get a group together, and our first goal will be to try and raise enough to purchase one used ambulance. So far, I have Huggins that will give us not a fundraising representative, but a representative just as for technical purposes. The same with Taylor Community, and I do have at least 4 other individuals that are willing to be part of this group and start trying to fundraise the money. Now it's a matter of, I gotta see if I can put the group together, and I have to find a chair for it, someone who wants to drive this, because I can't as a select board.
Now, will we be able to use any of those funds towards the contract until we get our own ambulance? Or is this just purely for acquiring?
This is just pure to get an ambulance, where I'm hoping, and I know that Jim was working on it, to see if, to go past the 2 years, if maybe Stewart's will do 1 ambulance for us. They do that for Tufton Borough, and I think they do it for Ossipee. They split several ambulance with a cooperative group of towns, Meredith, Center Harbor,
Wolfeboro, Sandwich, I think that's it.
and that's it. So they do 5 ambulances for those 4 towns, and only, I think, 2 paramedics. But talking to people in Sandwich, they were telling me that 35, 36 minutes to get an ambulance with a paramedic to their town if they need it. We don't want that. So hopefully, maybe, Stewart's can continue service a little bit longer with 1 ambulance, and if we can get 1 ambulance, Stewart's would be a primary one, the hope would be, and our department would be a backup ambulance, the second ambulance. And then eventually, our fire department, I would like to keep fundraising and purchase a new ambulance a couple of years down the road, and then our fire department takes over the whole ball of wax. And the numbers I've looked at, and this is just me speaking, I'm not speaking for the board, I'm not speaking for anybody else, I'm kind of a citizen in this role, but the numbers I've done show that we will spend less having a fire-based system than if we have to contract it out up at $950,000, $1 million for 2 fully stacked ambulances, based on what I've seen from numbers from other communities.
Well, business case would tell you that.
I have one more question, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
Bob.
and I know this is a little off topic, but it's not. Taylor building the new places, are they growing their assisted living, or is their community just growing their elderly community, their
Both.
independent living?
Independent and assisted living, and they're gonna have, I went for the tour, they're gonna have it's not Alzheimer's, they have.
It's a memory care.
Memory care.
If I may, it's a
They have a
memory.
memory care unit
It's
also.
approximately 61 licensed beds. I don't believe they're at capacity yet. It's going to be a
61.
while.
Yeah.
That new facility.
Not all of them are full memory care, but
No.
that's the goal.
And they're 55% full at this time.
Yeah, no, they're
Because they were at
ramping up.
14, is that 61 additional, or is that 61 total? 'Cause
That's in the brand new building. It's
the
61
brand-
beds.
Okay. Because that's gonna.
It's assisted living,
Does it have nursing?
it's assisted living, and it's
Memory care?
memory care.
So that's all
and,
private pay.
It's pretty much, you can go from beginning to end through. You come in from independent to assisted to memory care in their facility.
And they have space as well. Obviously, we've been involved in it. a family unit, let's say an elderly couple, if one needs the memory care level of care, they also have locations in the building where they can both be in the same unit
Okay.
to stay together.
And somebody can buy in as a two-bedroom and
Right.
be a single person and use a bedroom for family coming. And once you buy in there, they say, that's it, you're there until
The money runs
until you're not anymore. Until you're not anymore. Until you're not anymore. That's their, what they, how they explained it to me.
All right, we all set on ambulance services? Move on to fire and rescue.
Okay, so the fire department budget, the overall budget, at the bottom line, you'll see a 20% increase. Mind you, that last year the voters approved a new firefighter. That's in this budget. In this budget as well is the third of those 3 firefighters that is anticipated for July of 2024. And then additionally, there's a lease purchase for a fire truck that is in this. And mind you, that lease purchase is in here, but there will be no warrant article for capital reserve funding from the fire department in the neighborhood of $200,000, and you'll see that in here as a new lease.
So Jim, was that decision on that lease purchase, was that taken last year to do that?
That was taken last
Okay.
year
So
by
this is
a
just
warrant
a
article.
continuation of, okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, what's the term of that lease?
4 years.
It's down payment this year on delivery plus 4 years.
Thank you. Level?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 100 series,
I got a couple of questions.
go ahead.
Line 140, overtime. It's a pretty serious jump in overtime. I mean, can we talk to that a little bit? Because I'm looking at the numbers and the actuals for this year. It looks to me like you're probably going to come in somewhere around $80,000 in overtime if the trend continues. John, you're looking, and you're looking for 90,000. Can you
Yeah.
tell me what's that?
First of all, thank you. I will point out, we did hand out our year-to-date figures effective as of this afternoon, for a couple of reasons. One being, and I'm sure we'll get into it, with the budget freeze, some of those lines look like there's not a lot expended, but we moved those, and a lot of that has gone away as of yesterday. But those are current as of this afternoon. To answer your question, the primary difference, the increase, is that should we be successful with this budget, we intend to add the third of those 3 firefighters approximately July 1st. And at that point, we would begin to run with a minimum of 3 on duty every day rather than 2. The increase in the overtime line essentially reflects backfill for accrued leave and that sort of thing to maintain that 3 after approximately July 1st. The way I calculated that, if you want to go, we can go into the weeds a little bit, because I'm talking to other departments and so forth, a lot of that is their budgeting is based on 5-year averages and history. We don't have any history at a minimum of 3. So what I did was, working with the finance department, I created a 5-year average of how much accrued leave each member takes, and turned it into an annual average. Over the last 5 years, the average firefighter has taken 304 hours of accrued leave per year. Put that in the back of your mind for a second. That number, 304 times 11 and a half staff, the half being that new firefighter in the half year, is just under $3,500 hours per week. Divided by 52 weeks, we would expect our staff to use approximately 67 hours a week of accrued leave total. Now, and this is where it gets interesting. We're back to our friends, the Kelly days. Because of our schedule right now, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, one of our staff is on a Kelly day. So at that point, we're good. If a second member asks for one of those days off, is when we have to backfill it. So what I did was, if you take 4 days, those 4 days a week, out of 7 days, that's 57% of the week. So what we're proposing to do is cover 38 hours a week, 57% of those 67 hours, to maintain 3 on duty at 24/7.
Okay.
And you do the math at the average overtime rate, and really we left the number of expected incident callbacks and the training number and so forth the same, and you do the math, and that's the $90,500.
Okay, well, looking at the 5-year average, 5-year history, you're running at $77,757, which is, $13,000 under what we're looking at here. And I'm just wondering, is that 13,000 delta due to the fact that you're now covering for a third firefighter?
Yes.
Is that it?
Well, that and obviously
Basically.
salaries have
without
increased by a
those
percentage, so the
That's
average.
really what's happening.
Probably a small percentage there due to salary increases.
Right.
But essentially the largest portion of that comes from the.
You're correct.
Kind of thought that was the case. but I-
You're correct.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, go ahead, Paul.
A couple of weeks ago, Leanne passed out to us an overtime report that was run through the month of, I think it was October 11th. And it was for every person in the town who was eligible to use overtime. And the numbers, frankly, the numbers are what they are. The question I asked then, and maybe you can try to address it here, Chief, is I don't believe for a minute that anybody sits around and says, let's just gen up some more overtime. It's caused on you, right? It's a cause that happens.
Sure.
Your team doesn't get together and say, let's go fire up some OT.
Right.
And I don't believe that the police department does that as well, nor the highway department. So I look at this and I say to myself, does this problem get solved with more headcount? Because it seems to me that you got some of your team that are working a whole ton of hours. And I observed to Jim that it sounded to me like they're really tired. Does this problem get solved by adding more headcount?
I think it gets reduced. I don't know what you would consider solved.
It gets reduced, so the dollars would go down.
No, they'd be still accruing leave.
Anybody ever run the
Now,
numbers?
keep in mind.
Anybody
by-
done the toggle to say more headcount?
Did I not ask you, Chief, to run an equation to hire a person to fill your overtime, and it was cheaper to run overtime than it was to hire another staff?
Right, well, number one, keep in mind, we're looking at the difference between 2 and 3, presumably in July or thereabouts. We did do some math, because that question came up. At the end of the day, take the leave time replacement out of the equation for a minute. Incident callback, training, overtime for training, detail coverage, that would not be affected. What we're left with is the leave time replacement. If we take that number, again, what's projected, 24, call that 40,
I'm not asking you to-
$63,000, we don't get a full-time employee for $63,000.
Yeah, I'm just trying to simply understand, and I'll just park it here, you don't need to do math with me. Overtime gets solved by one of 3 things. Number 1 is you just don't do it, which you can't not
Right.
do it. So
Right.
check that off as a non-functioning possibility. Number 2 is you add headcount. And if you're telling me that math equation doesn't work for the fire department, stipulate it, I got it. And then the third would be to simply shovel it off to, pass it off to somebody else who can do the overtime. I should say shovel it off, pass it off to somebody else, which is not functioning. You can't do that either. So if you're telling me that you ran the numbers and it makes sense to carry the overtime that you're carrying, I'm fine.
I would point out too that part of our, not our, I don't want to say our culture, but our experience, our situation today, we have a number of members who have 20, 25, 30 years of service. We have a number of members who have 2, 4, 6, 8 years of service, not a lot in between. The contract, the personnel policy all require them to burn a certain amount of leave time in the course of a year or lose it. They're not going to walk away from it. Nobody would.
You can't pay.
So we do have to take that into account. You know, as particularly with more senior employees who've accrued more time and accrue it at a slightly higher rate, there's more opportunity to have to backfill because, again, I don't think anybody reasonably thinks people are just going to walk away from their accrued thing.
Hold on, Tom.
That's exactly what I was going to mention, based on the meeting that Bob and I had with you, Chief, Deputy Chief, was that it's not a self-inflicted wound, but it's one that we've decided the town is going to not allow the rollover. And so you either take it or you lose it, and really nobody's going to lose it.
And I don't know that we have any way to track it, but I'll defer to the deputy or Kathy. Actual short notice, I can't come in today, I don't feel well, is minimal.
Right.
Minimal. It happens, yes, but it's very minimal.
That's
Bob?
accrued leave.
Bob?
Yes, the run you handed us today, at the end of 11 months, you're up to 75,691. That's about 7,000 a month. The month of December would bring you up to, I guess, close to 83,000. So you're pretty close to the number you picked. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Chief. Kelly shift, those are 24-hour shifts?
All our shifts are 24-hour shifts, correct.
Okay, so I take a leave day. Am I hit for 24 hours?
We subtract 24 hours from your accrued leave.
Okay. And then the person that comes in and works a full 24-hour shift?
Sometimes, depending on who is up next in line for the overtime shift. We typically try to fill them in 12-hour blocks in case that person is either just coming off duty and they're going to be on for 36 hours or they're going to be on the next day. And we try to minimize anybody working 48 hours straight. It's just, it's hard. It's very difficult. I can't say it never happens. It's rare. So in generally speaking, we try to divide it in half and do 12 hours and 12 hours.
Now, how many lieutenants do you have?
3.
Do they fill in those shifts, or are they supervisors for the other 3 guys that are there?
If they're next up on the list and it's not a day they're already scheduled to work, they're eligible to take it.
Is there usually a lieutenant on at night with the guys, the other 3 guys? Or
They work 24 hours, same as everybody.
Are they part of the 3, or is it
Yes,
3 plus
yes,
a lieutenant?
yes. No, they're part of the total.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Bobby?
Just quickly on your accrued leave that you're burning off, is that prior years too, and now starting this year, it changes to that it's not rolling over?
No, that's been in effect for a period of time.
So you're only burning off the year you're in?
No. We're allowed to accrue a certain amount, but after a certain point, you have to use typically what you accrue, in generally speaking, in a year. In other words, most of the staff is at a point where they would be eligible for a 480-hour buyback if they choose to retire or leave
Okay. So
tomorrow.
this isn't a number
So
that's
beyond that 480, anything they accrue in the course of this year, they got to burn it back down.
Okay, so this isn't ongoing, this isn't.
Yeah,
something
no,
you're
this
back-
has been ongoing
Okay,
for a
that's
number of
question one.
years.
Question two, same thing I asked the police department. Why are we training in overtime? The 7,480?
Because obviously not everybody's on duty every day.
Okay,
If we bring in an outside instructor or schedule a drill,
okay.
we don't limit it to the on-duty staff. We have been able in the last few years to do some degree of fire training, but a fair amount of EMS training online, which we have the staff do while they're on duty, which helps. But, I mean, at the end of the day, this is a team sport, and we have certain training activities and certain drills that we need to do with everybody working together and that sort of thing. So, you know, there are going to be times when people are on overtime for training.
Just for clarification, the chief and the deputy do try to keep that overtime line down by covering shifts as well. So
We
today
covered the
was-
shift today.
Both of them covered today. So they do
Until we
work,
left
try to
to come
keep
over
that
here.
down. So.
There's an intrinsic value too. The $8,000 to $13,000 gives us 3 firefighters protecting our community, and it gives them a little bit better quality of life, which that's huge.
It does give us a slightly larger pool to pick from when those overtime shifts come. And I go back to what was stated before about being tired. This lets us at least spread it out a little bit more.
The tiredness.
No, it's an issue, it can be. And like I said, we try not to have people work 48 hours straight and that sort of thing. That is just
Can I
awful.
explain why you post all about coffee every morning? Is that what you do?
Kind of, sort of. Although, I typically don't work a 24-hour shift, but that's been known to happen on occasion.
John, one last.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this, your turns up, I understand that your turns up practice in the PD. Your turns up, it's in the contract, how your turn being up is done, right? Who's next up?
The contract, I don't believe
So how do you
addresses that.
determine
We
whose
have a
turn is up?
department policy that it literally, well, on day one, it started by seniority,
Yeah.
and it basically is a way to provide equality of opportunity to take an overtime shift.
Yeah.
Kathy's got it here. This is our
Oh, very
This is our list as of today, so the next person to get a phone call would be Lieutenant DeBeer if we had an open shift.
And everybody
You'll
on
see
the
a line in there, we're
everybody
asking
on the
for a
team
piece of
knows about
software
that.
to let us get rid of
They
that.
agree with that, there's no problems with that, it's good.
It's been working, you know,
Perfect. Thank you very much.
as long as we follow the policy,
Got it.
everybody knows how it works.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, we all set on the 100 series? How many part-timers do we have, Chief, real quick?
I'll use the term responders, I believe we have 9 right now.
Oh, okay.
Reverend Lindsay is our chaplain, he's technically under the part-time list, but he's not a responder.
Is that reflected in the other compensation, or what is, where were they
Yes.
found at, other compensation?
No, they are on
Part-time
the
wages.
part-time wages.
Oh, okay.
117.
Yeah, 117.
Any chance we could keep that at what it is for this year, 2023, 37,152?
What the way that works with the call staff is their hourly rate is based on their level of certification and their years of service. So in the course of a year, for example, if someone who's certified to firefighter 1 attains their firefighter 2 certification, they get a bump in their hourly rate. The increase is, we essentially level funded it with a provision that we are looking at, we met with the staff 2 weeks ago, we're looking at trying to implement, for lack of a better term, a standby or a stipend program for call members, so that, for example, for the sake of argument, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we would pay them a dollar amount in return for, we know that from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m., if we get an all companies call or a first alarm call, they are coming. It's not who shows up and we don't necessarily know. We don't know how that's going to look yet, but I added extra money, roughly the equivalent of $100 a week for the final 6 months of 2024 to give us some flexibility to come up with something that would allow us to do that or something similar. My original thought was you sign up for a week. The feedback has been Monday through Sunday, every evening is a big commitment, and not everybody would be able to do that. So we're literally meeting with the call staff in the last week or so to get feedback and see what that is going to look like. Number one, it's a benefit to us to know who's coming in terms of fire calls and stuff, but as this ambulance situation develops, it would also put us in a better position to be able to guarantee getting a second ambulance on the road should it be needed for a concurrent call and that sort of thing. That's where that increase essentially comes
We're
from.
at a point in the budget where we really got to make some smart moves to keep the budget down. You've got almost $10,000 left. Could you agree to accept the $37,152 that you had the previous year in that budget line?
Obviously, if we have to, we will, but
Well,
that's going to handicap us in terms of being able to guarantee some sort of a response.
Oh, Chief, please, you've got 3 new guys, how's it going to handicap you? I don't mean to question your authority, but we've got people struggling to pay their taxes. You've got $10,000 left, and you've got, how big is your budget altogether, $1 million something?
Yeah.
You can't give the taxpayers back 10 grand and stay at level funding, which you were this past year.
I mean,
John,
if
just to pile on your question, what specifically happens if that number goes to last year's number? What specifically happens?
it'll limit our ability to implement the standby or callback program. Obviously, the people who are here. It could limit our ability, should we have identified people in town who are willing to join as part-time or call firefighters, to be able to implement that. Is it the end of the world? No, I can't sit here and say that it is, but it's...
So what I'm hearing is, you're trying to build some muscle by having this callback program. By level funding it to last year, you say you can't do that, or you'd be impaired to do that, but I'm still not hearing the specific problem. You're just saying, well, it'll inhibit my ability to have a callback program. Is somebody going to get hurt? Are you going to have, what's going to happen?
I'm not the type to sit here and say, if we don't do this, babies are going to die and all kinds of things.
Well, good,
going
I
on.
hope you didn't.
However, we repeatedly have situations where we have concurrent calls, more than one call happening at once. At one point, early spring, we had 5 calls going on simultaneously. We do obviously rely on our mutual aid partners to assist with call surges like that. But as you might imagine, they can be 10, 12, 15, 20 minutes away. Our call numbers, in terms of total staff, aren't huge, but it's moving in the right direction. I mean, I'm talking about call members, but our call volume, although we're down a little bit right now, year-to-date from last year, tends to, the trend line is still up. We don't see the concurrent calls getting any better. Frankly, we kind of feel that this was a better approach, using our call and/or whatever you want to call part-time staff to supplement the duty crews and other members who are responding, rather than keep asking for more and more full-time staff.
Thank you, Chief. Brian.
Chief, are any of these call firefighters utilized to fill full-time shifts?
Don't we have one who meets the qualifications to do that and has done that. When we've exhausted the list and don't have the ability to fill a shift, he's the next call, and he has done that a handful of times. We have at least one, if not two more, who are close to being able to do that as well. And if we get to the point where we've exhausted the list and haven't filled the shift, we do have the ability to bring in. But obviously, as you might imagine, those people have to be able to operate all of our vehicles and the boats and everything versus, you know, maybe a little less level of training and experience as strictly a part-time person.
Bobby?
I have a question. Are we talking about $2,600 here, John?
No, we're talking about $10,000.
Yeah, I was confused too a little bit because I see 39,000
Yeah.
for, on the line 117.
Are you on 117?
But then on the back, under part-time wages, I see 47 because, is it, Casey, is it because they add in benefits or insurances or
What
something?
back, when you say back page number or something?
Page 12.
You may not have the new one. This is, you have to look at the new sheet. That has different numbers on it.
Yeah.
The backup doesn't meet the front sheet.
The labor line
The
is the
front
same.
sheet doesn't have any.
What am I missing?
The labor line is the same, Brian, it's the associated benefits.
Taxes and workers' comp. If you look on the left-hand side, 39,752.
Okay.
Right, but on a year-to-date, it shows $27,550.
Oh, I see what he's,
That's what I'm talking about.
same number.
John,
Yeah,
can I ask a question?
sure.
Have you had situations
So
where
if I
you
look,
try,
that's $2,600.
Hold on, guys, please. Sorry.
where you call in, try to get a part-time, or to come in and you can't get it?
Decrease.
We have, the way we're set up today, we don't limit, and if there's a call right now, any of our members can respond. It's not unusual, I meant to and I didn't run the number. Our typical average response across the board, and you know, to be fair, and we can go out into the weeds if you want, is I think it's about 2.5 members per call, and that includes the duty crew. To be fair, a standalone medical call, not a concurrent call, not particularly technical call, we designate those as duty crew tones, and if somebody's available and wants to come in, they can. But we don't necessarily expect people to, that's why we have full-time staff. We don't expect our part-timers to come to every single call. But if you take that over the course of a year and average it out, I'm pretty sure that number is below 3.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. For you, I'm a little confused also. Are you saying that you want to keep it level funded on that line?
No, I'm looking at the new sheet that was handed
Right,
out.
the actions.
Yeah, I'd probably, I would do a motion for 30,000. So decrease it by 7,000, according to the sheet, I think. Yes,
Can I make a suggestion, John?
yes, ma'am.
That you get a certain amount, a number that you want, and take it out of the bottom line. And by taking it out of the bottom line, the Board of Selectmen did that, it really lets the department head maybe take a little here, there, and the other has a way to kind of balance their needs a little better than when we started scratching out particular lines. And just a suggestion, John.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Certainly, Bobby.
So I get with the spending freeze, but I'm assuming that you're going to have overtime and for these part-timers, and you're going to have more wages based on the fact that we have holidays in December.
Well,
Does
the
that
holidays come under
affect
other
this?
compensation themselves,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, we still have a month to go in the year, and there will be callbacks. We've suspended any organized training that we would be bringing people in on overtime for because of the budget freeze. But we will have, you know, emergencies, and we will have part-time members
So even though
responding.
there's a freeze, this number does not freeze at your current. What is your additional that you're gonna have in December that's not, because you still have employees to pay
Correct.
under line 117.
You have five more payroll weeks to go.
And what is the amount on that?
I can't necessarily predict, because again, we've suspended meetings and stuff that we could say, okay, 2 hours here, 2 hours here, 2 hours here. It'd basically be emergency call response is what they'd be paid for.
Stuff happens, calls.
I mean, do you have an idea? Because I'm assuming with 5 more weeks to go, that 10,000, we're not at 10,000.
Yeah. Yeah, as of today.
Yeah.
Well,
John, you're,
Casey points out, and she's correct, our month-to-date in November, which, one today is it, was $3,300 in that line. I would say that would probably roughly similar going forward for the rest of the year.
John,
Yes, sir.
your ambition was a $10,000 issue?
My motion, I'll make it right now, is to make line 117 $30,000. I'll talk to my motion if I get a second.
Second.
You talk to it?
Of course. Of
I'm
course.
not sure there, and I'm kind of in the space of select person Maury. I can't figure out whether that number's right or not. It doesn't feel right. I'd much rather have you guys take $833 a month out of your budget at the bottom line and figure out how to re-swizzle the budget. That would be it's $833 a month, times 12 months. So, I don't want to get in and manage the line, I'd much rather manage the bottom line,
Right.
okay? That's kind of right.
I think what I'm trying to do is
You're trying to move it along.
no, and I'm trying to send a message. The community's been very supportive of the fire department these past several years. 3 full-time positions, 3. And that's pretty close to, I would say, what, $400,000, Jim? Somewhere in there?
It's about approximately $95,000 a year
Each.
for a new hire.
We've done the fireboat. We've really given the department a lot. And we don't ask a lot from the department. I appreciate the job, they did a great job, but we took the police department, we asked them to step up and give up some overtime for their department, and I think $10,000, there's gotta be $10,000 somewhere in this budget that they can use to make up the difference. Casey, just give me a reminder, how much is my $300,000 house gonna cost me in taxes?
$440,
$440.
or $880 because you doubled it.
Double it, right. Just this year, we're not talking about this
It's a
budget.
spectacular amount of money.
Yeah, and we really gotta tighten down some things. Again, nothing against you guys, you do a great job, it's just, people have gotta step up, departments have to step up and make different plans, do different things to help both the taxpayers. Okay, yes, sir.
I seconded your motion for a reason. I know you wanted to make a point, but I kind of go along with what Paul is suggesting and Ms. Murray is suggesting, that we do a bottom line number. We did it for the police department. We took,
Yeah, but that way we're required to do that. Because they set salaries and they set compensation for the officers. That's why we did the bottom line.
Oh,
was
okay.
Because of that. Nothing precludes these people from transferring money from another section into that line, is that correct?
Yeah, if it is a busy year in the fire department and the call staff is used heavily, we have to find the money to compensate them.
If you would feel more comfortable, I'll be glad to amend my motion to the bottom line.
I would feel more comfortable if you're going to amend.
I would feel more comfortable.
Okay,
I think they could probably do a better job of finding the money amongst all the other stuff rather than attacking one line.
Okay, then I'll withdraw my motion, and I'll make a motion to amend the bottom line of the fire and rescue, decrease it by $10,000.
Second. Third.
Okay. Any further discussion?
That was 10,000?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't see any discussion, any further discussion, so we'll do a roll call vote. Leanne?
Bobby Budman,
No.
Bob Tuffer,
Yes.
John McDonald.
Yes.
Brian Black,
Yes.
Bob Mulholland,
No.
Tom Bell,
Yes.
Matt Flash,
No.
Bob Lohman,
Yes.
Paul O'Brien,
Yes.
and Brian DeShays.
Yes.
So 7-3.
The motion passes 7-3. Okay, let's move on to 200 series. 300 series.
Hey, I'm up.
Yes, Bob.
Communications. When me and Tom met with the chief and the deputy in October, I think it was, we went over their budget and talked about some different things. One of the things that came up in that conversation was portable radios. Police department actually just had the same thing come up in theirs, and we let it go. Their portable radios are basically obsolete. They can use them, they can get parts as long as there's parts available. But at some point, they're gonna have to replace them. When the chief met with the town manager, there was discussion about it, and it was decided, my understanding was it decided the town manager push it off. I don't know, that was the discussion that was had. The concern I have is it's a need, it's not a want, it's a need. Those communications, those radios, those portable radios are used to communicate from inside to outside. So it's a critical tool for the fire department. I realize it's tough, I realize they're costly, but I think it's something we really need to consider. If we push them off, it's just gonna cost more. And to give you a case in point, we pushed a ladder truck off 2 years, cost taxpayers $300,000 more, at bare minimum, $300,000 more, so we didn't save them any money there. So I wanna let the chief talk about it, so he can, he's the power to be in the expert, not me, so I'll let him.
Add to that, I think the other thing is that you can't replace them in a cycle.
Correct.
Because they need to be the same equipment for safety's sake.
Can you just clarify that we're on 432 and you're not talking about the 300 series? Because John said 300 series and you skipped to 432, right?
You
I just want to
341,
clarify.
correct?
What's that?
You're doing 341
Yes,
communication?
communications.
Yeah.
So 432 is the maintenance though, the radios.
Yeah, no, we're on 341 communications. Go ahead, chief, if you want to talk about your radios.
Go, guys, go.
It's 341.
Sure, well, if I might, we identified that this was an issue that was coming. At the end of December of this year, Motorola won't support those radios anymore, so we felt we needed to get this on the radar, so to speak. When we got the prices, they were rather large. We decided to break it into a two-year project. And if I may, I'd like the deputy is prepared to go into the details of that, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we found out, as has been mentioned, that the radios by Motorola have hit their 10-year span, and they won't be supported by the company after the end of this year.
Question,
Yes,
John?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
they're no longer going to make parts for that particular radio.
So if it breaks, if one just goes dead, you have to either go get another one on eBay, I shouldn't say eBay, you gotta go get another one, but you can't go, rip a part out of it and stick a new one in. Is that a problem?
Short term, probably not.
Okay.
Long term, when
It's
there's,
stipulated.
right, nothing on the shelf.
Okay.
John, does that include software updates? Won't there be no more software updates?
I believe it does, yes.
What kind of software gets updated on a fire radio?
It would be probably more of a category of firmware than software.
What kind of firmware gets updated on a fire radio?
I can't tell you what kind. It's, general programming, the interface with the units and the battery. They do have Bluetooth capabilities, which
Yeah.
we use in some limited capacity.
All right, got it. So no longer supported after 10 years, can't get a part for it.
Well,
Okay, no, I'm just,
we can get parts, right?
Until the parts are.
Until
Until
the
the
parts
parts
are
are
gone.
gone.
Until the parts are gone.
Right.
Do you have
And
spares?
Wolfeboro Fire is not the only one using Motorola Road. I mean, there's a nationwide problem. So we put together a package for the town manager that replaced all the portables and the mobiles with some chargers over a 2-year period. So we asked for an outlay in '24 of $92,558. After some discussion with the town manager, he made the decision to push that off a year.
now, is there any back-end stuff that you have to have if you bring up new radios? Any stuff in the background, communication stuff in the background you have to?
Programming would probably be the biggest thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would have to go into that 94 Gs at some point, right?
At some point.
Okay.
It's included.
Just because of the way that we use them, it's not a project that we would support necessarily being a staggered program where we buy half of them in 24 and then we wait until 27 to buy the next one. So you have to happen concurrently. So that was our plan. You know, I'll take any questions. That's what we handed the town manager. And
When you buy a new radio, does it talk to the old ones?
Yes.
Yes.
They will.
What's the total cost?
For one?
No, for the whole shooting match.
The whole thing?
94,000 bucks.
I had $200,000 in my math over a 2-year period.
200 grand?
Give or take, that's correct.
How many
John, I have
units
a
is that?
question.
That,
Do you have spares?
right now, we don't. So all the radios are assigned to career staff, and we keep additional radios on the apparatus for call members that may or may not show up, or dead batteries or issues.
So you don't have any just on the shelf not being used?
No, sir.
And how many units is that for 200,000?
So we're asking for 22 portables, 4 mobiles, and a couple chargers. Total.
Another question, Joe?
Yes, sir.
So earlier, Tom, I asked you what happens, it's the risk question. It wasn't, and you were right by saying, we're not going to talk about how many people get hurt. I'm asking the risk question. What happens if you don't replace these radios in fiscal 2024? What happens if you don't? It's the risk question.
In the ideal world, nothing happens. We go into 25 and we have a plan to replace them. I have no idea what Motorola's inventory is as far as replacement parts.
Right.
I would quite honestly say it's a small chance that if we had a broken radio in 24, we would be able to find something to fix it.
How old are the units we have now?
They'll be 10 years.
10
They're up
plus.
there. Yeah, they're old. This is old as well.
Did the state buy those originally?
No, they meet the state interoperability standard.
Yeah.
Which in the end kind of dictates a lot of what we're looking at. We have historically used Ossipee Mountain Electronics for our radio supplier. They do have the state contract, so that's essentially the best price we would be able to get.
Can you guys, if you get a chance, can you go and contact them, see if they have any lease purchase programs?
Based on our conversation, we'll make that call
Okay.
at least first of the week and see what we get for an answer.
Is there any grant money out there available?
We thought we had one here in the last few weeks. We got an email from FEMA through Homeland Security and the first line of the grant eligibility is portable and mobile radios are not eligible for this grant.
Well, there you go.
I think it's safe to say, and I've spent a lot of time in grants in the last few weeks, should something come along, or should we determine that there's a program out there that these would be eligible for, we would certainly pursue that. Or even if it was a partial, 50-50 or something along those lines.
John? Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Bob. Go ahead.
I'll let Bobby go.
Okay.
So, are you gonna get back to us, chief, with that lease?
Yeah, we'll pursue that and
So,
get an answer.
we're gonna do a revisit,
Yeah.
right? Because I don't wanna make a motion if we're gonna revisit it.
Yeah, okay, that's fine, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Question. Question.
Hold on just a second. Go ahead.
I just, looking at the 10-year-old radios versus what they're offering out now, okay, what are you gonna gain? What's the advantage other than the fact that they're newer and more money and can be serviced?
I think in the end, that's it. I mean, there are some features that our current radios don't have. Not the end of the world as far as that goes. But what we hope to be able to accomplish, if we go back to previous conversations about our air packs, one of the things you've heard us say is we want them all to be identical. We felt we want the same for the portable radios, but we felt if we break it into 2 years, we have a reasonable expectation the models can be identical 1 year to the next. you know, other than, you know, the ability to service them, I don't know that they present a huge advantage to us. You know, we talk to dispatch, we have, the repeater system exists, it wouldn't impact that at all, other than we use it. It'd just be newer, up-to-date radios where we have the ability to get parts should we need them.
Bob Duffer?
The numbers, the kind of numbers you're talking about, it looks to me like you'd be better served by a warrant article than in the budget. I mean, I think you have a better shot with a warrant article because...
Could be. To be honest, it surprised us, and I think going forward, we would start to implement that into our capital reserve.
Yeah, right.
Once we got the last time we did this, they didn't hit $100,000. So this kind of caught us a little bit by surprise when we started getting prices. And we said, you know, going forward, we might want to add that as a capital reserve item.
Yeah, I agree with that, but, you know, I think and after a number of years, I think we're about as close as we're going to get to a default budget, and it's going to come out in a default budget. So, you know, that's why I say if you make this case pitching a warrant article, you got a much better chance, I think. You know, I don't know what's on the plate for warrant articles, but, you know, this is emergency services. So. And 10-year-old radios, I think it'll pass.
What?
I'm a little confused, more than a little confused, because I'm looking at line 341, which is telephone, on the budget that we got from Jim Pinio electronically. On this sheet, it says communications. I'm not sure what's what.
So I think we jumped the gun.
We skipped around.
The line that we're talking about revisiting.
No, the line, it is not a line, it was a capital outlay, it was not within the budget.
Yeah.
If I may, the 341 line you're looking at is maintenance of, if we had a portable that broke and we got parts, that would be the line that paid for the repair. It covers our pagers.
But that's my problem.
Yeah,
341 in the backup says telephone, breeze line, internet line, phone lines, and department cell phone.
432.
And 432
is the one that you're referring to.
432 is the line.
We originally presented this to the manager as an outlay.
Right.
So
No, I understand that, but I'm speaking to Bob's point.
Okay.
We want to revisit line 432, I believe, not 341.
No, you want to
No,
capital
it's
outlay.
a capital outlay.
Oh,
So
okay.
we gotta find a way to put it back.
That should have been explained in the beginning.
Well, here,
Because I'm just as confused.
How many radios do you have right now?
22.
And you ever had to buy any new ones because of the new guys, the new hires, or was that included in the salary?
We had,
the package?
so in the past couple of years, we had a couple spares, and
Okay.
those have since been issued.
May I ask a question?
Yes, Bobby, go ahead.
So you mentioned earlier that other towns are coming off of this old antiquated system, they're updating theirs. Is there a way for us to purchase their old radios? Do they have the same models that would work with ours? Because you said other towns also have these radios.
For spare parts. And
I mean, I just meant generally speaking, Motorola is a very, popular manufacturer. There are other towns that run them.
So as other towns are
But we're gonna run
upgrading
into
their
the same
system,
problem.
is there a way for us to maybe purchase their radios?
No, because it's gonna run into the same issue where they're not gonna be supported anymore.
Okay.
Okay, we all set? Yes, sir.
so I have this thing about invest in the things you believe are core competencies. And so if you need what I would call kit, this is kit, in order to run the operation, then it ought to be first-class kit. That's my personal opinion. Buying used stuff, I think you need first-class kit. The challenge is, the budget is what it is, and it's not really fun to look at, expanding it, while we're expanding other things. So, decisions have to be, and we have to decide what our priorities are. And it's not clear to me that we've done that yet. On the lease purchase, the only question I would ask, if you wouldn't mind, is what's the imputed rate of interest for you to lease purchase? Basically, lease purchase is they lease you this thing on a residual
Yeah.
value basis, and you're paying 8 or 10 or 12%. I want to know what the imputed rate is. It'll look good on your operating budget. You can make it optically look prettier in the picture, but it may be dumber than a stump to do it. Okay?
Fair
So, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Did you say that FEMA wouldn't give you a grant for radios? Was that who you went to?
No, obviously, we get notified of various grants as they become available through the state and through the feds. And on an initial read, we thought we might have something, and as we delved into it, found it didn't meet the criteria for the rating.
Because FEMA just gave $977,000 to New Haven, Connecticut for portable radios and base radios for their
Keep
fire
in mind,
department.
there are multiple programs through FEMA. That may very well be one of them.
Yeah. Now Motorola, will Motorola, if you go to them and say, we've had your radios for 10 years,
No.
we need to get new radios, can you help us get grants to get new radios through them?
We can ask the question, certainly.
It says online that that's what they do.
Okay, then we'll try it.
Yeah, see if Motorola will upgrade.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Chief, if one of your radios breaks, and it can't be fixed, say, come July, it can't be fixed, the firmware can't be flashed, something,
Right.
what are you gonna do?
One, we'll take one off of the piece of apparatus and give it to whatever member
Okay.
needs a radio.
Two break.
2, 5?
5, we'll have career firefighters that don't have a portable radio.
Can they respond without a radio, or?
No.
Okay.
Okay, you'd like to move on if we can.
No, I just,
Okay. Go ahead.
quick question. We're now into line 432, sort of.
Okay.
I just would like to know, the $5,400 that's in that detail for two-way radios, portable pagers, and batteries, that's just supplies for the...
Essentially, it's supplies, but that also reflects, because they're all assigned today, for the potential new hire in July, we would have to purchase one.
Okay.
Because of the nature of it, and it'll be somewhat different than the others, and that's what we've been talking about. It'll probably be assigned to myself or the deputy, just so that the line staff is using similar equipment.
Same exact
Right,
equipment. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, thanks. Sorry, Jim.
That's okay. Actually, it's 300.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one clarification question on this whole matter. I think this board has instructed us to go out and get lease pricing, is that correct?
Yes.
Is that for $100,000, or is that for the full $200,000? I know this committee is conscientious of the budget, so
Whatever you feel is the town manager is appropriate.
I think zero is appropriate.
Okay.
And that's why I removed it. That's why I'm asking you what you would like to do.
Sure. Why don't you get the full price, at least in the full price for 22 units.
For the 200,000.
Whatever the lease price for 22 units is, and the two special ones.
$200,000 it'll be.
Okay, I want to know the lease price for, if it's 5 years, 6 years, 2 years, whatever it is,
And the
for
imputed
22
interest rate.
units.
And you're okay with the imputed interest rate, right?
Yeah, we put the same thing on the tasers,
I just want to know what the rate of interest
Okay.
is to lease purchase.
and then possibly a half, 11 of those.
Oh, so you buy both, okay.
Does anyone need anything else? No? Okay. Okay, 400 series, 500 series.
435. Can I just ask about the 1750 for painting and general repairs as we're ripping down parts of the building? Do we really need to paint for 1750?
The line you're looking at, that's actually the substation. Painting for the public safety building is in the public safety building budget, and there's basically none of it.
Oh my God. You're actually going to paint that place?
But it's general repairs.
Okay, right, right.
It's vinyl siding, I mean. But yeah, the building maintenance line in the fire rescue budget is for the substation. The public safety building is separate, and
Okay.
anything we're doing there is in there.
Okay. So that's why I'm seeing that in the next account, the large building maintenance there for the 18,822. Not in this account, the building maintenance when we go up to 42,901.
Right,
Talking about
right,
different buildings.
right,
Okay.
that's that building.
Thank you.
Ford series,
He's got a new book.
500 series.
560?
Yes.
So your 560 line, 5-year average, $8,733. Can you just help me understand the dues and subscriptions a little? Sorry.
I think you'll find the increase there in reference to what we talked about earlier. A lot of those subscriptions are for the online training and stuff that we've been able to implement, which in a lot of cases didn't exist 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Okay.
COVID really put a lot of that at the forefront, and I think we've been able to take advantage of it. Yes, the line shows an increase, but I think we've also been able to, as we said before, be able to do a lot of this on duty, and hopefully minimize the impact on the
So
overtime
some
line.
of
We
these-
also had a $2,000 increase in our dues to the Mutual Aid Association.
Okay, so that's, so did some of the funds then shift from your training onto that line? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's just, it gave us the flexibility to be able to do some of that training while members are on duty, essentially at their convenience, rather than having to schedule it, for the sake of an argument, Monday night at 6 o'clock, and everybody comes in and some are on overtime and so on and so forth.
That's not 560 though.
That's not the,
No, that's gonna be professional development.
oh, okay, my bad, I hit the wrong line.
So the 560 line with the $2,200 increase is almost all in the mutual aid membership.
It went from
Other than
6,000
that,
to
it's-
8,000.
It's essentially level funded.
Thanks.
Jim, on the rental and leases, that 182,255, that's a year for 5 years?
I believe that is correct.
It's for 4 years. There was a $200,000 deposit in '23, and then that same number for the next 4 years.
And how will that put us in as far as cycle? When will our next truck be purchased?
In existing capital reserve, we're looking at the next engine purchase, and I believe it's 2034. So we have time, once that is paid, to build that line back up.
Right, is there any money cap reserve now that we could use to offset this?
I don't believe we can use capital reserve for
That is correct.
leases.
That would be a violation of DRA rules.
We asked that question.
Okay.
That's part of the furniture.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to 500, 600. $700 and $800.
So 820, have that question again, professional development, 5-year average, $11,769. We're jumping up to 20,000 from our 5-year average. I'm just wondering what the professional development jump over the last 5 years has been.
The system calls it professional development. That's our training line. That's the contract, if I can back up to what I misspoke before. That's the contracts with the online training and that sort of thing. That's also the fees for certification classes that are put on, that sort of thing. We broke it down and
Page 6 has a good breakdown of it under their budget.
I mean, 9.
9, excuse me.
So I'm just curious why we're jumping up. I mean, we're talking about $8,000 more dollars in the last few years. Is it just additional staff? Is it?
I'm not sure I'm tracking with what you're saying.
I'm going off a 5-year average.
We've got 2022, our actual was 19,500.
I'm going off the 5-year average.
Okay. Part of it is additional staff,
Okay.
because we have added people. We've also added, brought on some call members who came in, I hate to use the term off the street, but with no experience or certification, which means, we're paying the fee for the class and we're putting them through the programs and so forth. Some of those fees have gone up, as you might imagine. But that's essentially what's reflected in that line. We, during COVID, to be honest, if we go back to maybe that 2-year span, there wasn't a lot of training going on for a number of reasons. So that may throw off the 5 years a little bit.
Okay. And then my question is, off of that, which I know I've asked you before, on the street, how many people are we actually training who we're investing in to train them, and then they take that training and they walk away with it? And do we have a program that recoups from other fire departments that take people who we've trained?
Yeah, the issue becomes, I think, on the career side, we've had over 10 to 15 years, 2 or 3 members who have been here for a period of time and then moved on to another department. On the call side, that does happen. We've kicked around and talked about some mechanisms by which we could ask for a commitment of a certain period of time if we cover it. The problem we're seeing is it would just come down to that individual and their sense of duty and right and wrong. The industry magazines and so forth, these don't tend to hold up in court if it got pushed to that point. We have had 2 of our current call members become full-time firefighters in other communities. They're still in town, they're still call members. They have great value to us because they do this every day, as opposed to, some of the rest of our part-time staff who really, their experience in the fire and EMS service is here and what we are able to provide for them. It's kind of an issue in the industry, and I don't know that we have a solution. We're somewhat limited in the interview process of what questions we can ask in terms of future plans and, that kind of thing. But we try to encourage or look at people who have some sort of an anchor to the community where we can hope that, they will be here to the point where we see a return on our investment. And it is significant, there's no doubt.
Thank you, Tom.
John?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I also noticed on line 820, the town manager dropped this line by $5,000. So we're looking at a hike of about, I guess, not even $1,500. So that's it.
Okay, we're good on that. Is that it?
John,
Yes, sir.
just one comment.
Sure.
If we look at the operating budget piece, without the salary and benefits for the fire department, look at the operating budget, which is $744,968, or an increase of $212,949. Of that $212,000, $185,000 of it is tied up in 2 items that haven't been seen before: uniforms and the release of the fire truck.
Uniforms have been seen, they were moved out of another budget.
No, but they're new to this budget. All I'm saying is, it's new to the budget. There was no budget for it before.
Yeah, there was, it just wasn't called uniform.
There was
In the interest of transparency, we have been encouraging, and were successful this year, in actually having a line called uniforms.
Okay.
They used to come out of safety equipment.
I withdraw that part of my thing. It's $182,000.
All that used to come out of the line that labeled safety equipment.
So really, we're talking about a $30,000 increase. If you just take that lease out of it, the lease purchase for the fire truck.
Okay, thank you.
That's not bad.
Okay, let's move on.
Emergency management, page 14.
We've got a mixture of 680 and 100 series.
Oh, there's nothing in the 680, that is a mistake.
Chief, you're the emergency management person?
Then the director, correct, we have two deputies.
Okay.
You are it.
That doesn't count towards your retirement?
This is, no, what you're looking at here, this is the stipend for Paul Whalen, who is our other, the deputy chief is the deputy emergency management director, and Paul is our other deputy emergency management director. We did that with the approval of the selectmen in an effort to have an individual with a background and the ability to run the emergency management operation should we have an incident where the two of us are in the field.
Okay, and
And that's his stipend,
yeah,
is
what's
what
his
you're
name?
seeing.
Deputy Chief Whalen, or?
Well, his title is deputy emergency management.
Oh, deputy, okay. Okay, Twin Series. 600 and 700 and 800. Any questions on emergency management?
Nope.
Go ahead. Chief's got a request.
To get back to what we were talking about earlier about grants, I have completed and applied for a grant through one of the programs in through Homeland Security Emergency Management, which would, if we're successful, help offset some of the cost of the new EOC and the new generator in the public safety building. During the course of that, we've submitted it. Homeland Security has it and has responded by saying we are also due to update the town's emergency operations plan. And they're willing to do that concurrently. So that process will continue to go forward. In light of that, and this only came out in the last couple of weeks, I talked to the state. I put together a list of 5 vendors who do updates of emergency operations plans, and essentially sent a mini RFP to say, here's what we're looking for, what would you charge us to do this? We are looking at, they're not all back yet, but the ones that have come back, if we are able to add $3,000 to the emergency management budget, that would allow us to have that update completed in 2024 and meet whatever town share would be required and keep us eligible for we're tracking on right now is about 75% of the $102,000 we requested for the update to the emergency management, the emergency operations center and the new generator for the new public safety building. And I apologize, this all came to light literally in the last 2 weeks and kind of took us by surprise. We expected to start that process sometime towards the end of next year with whatever financial impact would have been in the following year.
Where would you propose to put this?
Outside services, 380. There isn't one, but
Okay.
we would create one.
In emergency management or?
Emergency management so that he can update the plan.
Emergency operations plan.
So we need a 380 line for emergency, so we need to create a new line and.
You can just make the motion to add it to 380,
I'd like to
if
make a
you'd like to
motion
do that.
to add line 380.
Is there a shelf life for these emergency management?
It's typically a 5-ish year update. We had been, if you had attended some of the selectmen's meeting, we have been doing our annual affirmation with the board. We've made changes in contact info and things like that, you know, kind of minor adjustments. We added the library, so once this was completed, as a shelter that's named in the town's emergency operations plan, and that sort of thing. They did run up the flagpole that we'd been doing that to see if that qualified us for, get us another year without having to do the update, and it didn't work.
Has this gone to the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, that was one of my question.
We just learned about it yesterday.
Yeah, we just,
Okay, why don't you,
That would
why don't
be
you go
enough.
talk to the
Well,
selectmen,
wait.
come back and see
Yep.
us?
sure.
John, can I,
Yeah.
Selectmen handed us the budgets, right, so I think we can do it. And you said you're looking for $3,000, right?
Correct.
To be added to this line.
I think I'm with John. I mean, we're not all hung up in process. If this is important to the town, take it to the Board of Selectmen. That would be my advice to you. If the Board of Selectmen says no, or if they say yes, then we deliberate. That would be my advice.
All right, John.
Yes, sir. Go
I
ahead.
make a motion, we add 3,000 to a newly created 380 line in emergency management.
Okay, is there a second? Motion fails with no second. Okay, let's move on. We got Jim, Public Safety Building.
Public safety building, page 17.
Okay. 400 series,
435.
okay.
Can you tell me what entrance rugs are for 1,700?
There are floor runners inside the doors, where you wipe your feet when you come in and so forth.
Why the big increase in water? Don't tell me it's just spraying dust.
Hang on, still on 435.
It's
No,
not just spraying
no,
dust,
no,
it's
no,
okay, good.
We're, the short answer is, number one, looking at the 5-year average, but number two, for some reason, we, during the course of that, identified a bump this year, between July and August, where the reading was about triple what it normally is. We involved the water department, we had people come in and look, we checked the meters. It appears, the only explanation that we have that makes any sense is somebody left something running, but to triple the output, it couldn't have happened without noticing it. We don't have a good answer. It has since resolved.
It just took care of itself.
Yeah, and we can't explain it, and we're kind of at a loss. We first thought, well, it had something to do with the construction. Well, they didn't start till the end of July, so it really didn't have anything to do with the construction. By the time we realized it and involved Rod and others from the water department, they came in, they checked all the meters and so forth, and they didn't have any better explanation than we did. We do occasionally, less so since the construction started, do some training evolutions in the parking lot that involve some water, but we've done that for years and shouldn't really account for a spike of that magnitude. That's obviously, it's kind of got set aside since the construction started, because
And the
there's
good
just
news,
not a
the
lot of room.
enterprise fund over at water just got an unfunded benefit, so.
Helps with some of those.
Wash it all. as they
We
say,
tend to
washes out.
run 8-ish, 7, 8, 9,000 gallons a month. This went up to 27.5 and came right back down again. And I apologize, we don't have a good answer. We tried to chase it down, and
What
there it
month would
is.
that be, do you know?
I'm sorry?
Do you know what month it might have been in?
It was kind of the July-August read that it,
I had the same thing, on a very small, much smaller
Right,
scale on my
right.
water bill.
I-
Same,
okay.
same thing happened, went 3 times and then all of a sudden disappeared.
So are you saying we can drop that down about $1,500, that line, now that you've identified the problem?
Well, we have. I think we adjusted our request to the board, the selectmen, when we discovered that, because we went back and revisited it.
Yeah, you've got 4,627. Last year you had 3,772. And you've got $1,460 left in your budget towards this year.
I assume there's another building.
What a raise.
Hey, I think we
There is
probably
one more
got another bill.
One more
Yeah,
bill.
we got one more bill this year.
Okay.
The big spike is in there.
Yeah.
Okay,
John,
yes, sir.
did you say you had something else on 435?
Yeah, I was still on 435. So can you explain those entrance rugs to me? Are they for you? Like for your,
They're in the lobby for the public. They're inside of every entrance on the police side and on our side. For better term, floor runners.
I'm just not understanding $1,700 for an entrance rug. Are they really
They're
that?
rentals.
Yeah, they come in every 2 weeks to
Oh, and
replace
they
them.
clean, it's a service?
Yes.
Okay, that makes more sense. And then my other question is the same question I had before. General repairs and maintenance, $7,000. So this is the building we're ripping down, but we're putting $7,000 into it?
We still have to keep it running. We still live there.
Okay.
We tried to, we obviously aren't going to paint anything, so we reduced some of what we typically would put in there. But we obviously are still there. I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden, kind of out of the blue, we had a bunch of floor tiles in the kitchen bubble up. It cost us $800 to replace them. There was a trip hazard. We couldn't ignore it.
Yeah.
We felt we need some ability to, affect fairly minor repairs until the day the wrecking ball shows up for the rest of it.
What did you have in that general repairs and maintenance last year? Do you know?
1856.
Just in the general, not the whole building maintenance, the general repairs and maintenance. What was your number last year?
1673. 7,000.
You're asking about the budget or the actuals?
I'm asking about general repairs and maintenance. What was the actual last year under that they used, not the overall building maintenance, but what was used in that sub-line of general repairs and maintenance last year?
Not broken down.
Yeah, give us a minute. We'll, I can tell you what we budgeted to create the line. Once we get an invoice for one of those services, it gets charged to that line. We don't necessarily break it down by individual service, if you will, if it
I'm
came
just
under the
wondering
heading.
if the 7,000 was the same number you had last year.
Yeah, it is.
It's the same number we had last year, but when are we gonna have the new building? Will you be?
As it sits today, they're telling us we're still on schedule. We expect to be able to put the apparatus in the new apparatus bay that you'll see steel starting to fly this
Yeah.
week. February, March timeframe. It won't be completely finished, but we'd be able to put trucks in there. They would then move to where the current apparatus bay is, and essentially that will be demolished and rebuilt as the two-story living quarters, kitchen, emergency operations center / training room, offices and so forth. They're telling us now we'd be looking approximately November of next year for that.
November next year.
That still leaves the PD in the current building.
Right, that leaves the majority of the police department.
But that
And
would be
Captain
everything.
Livy is here. We asked him
No,
to
this
come
covers
just to
everything.
address some of these issues.
So
with
your
the
building maintenance covers for the.
This is the whole
The
building,
whole building.
Okay.
police and fire. That's
Okay.
why it's in a separate budget.
Okay, thank you.
Are you guys gonna have to move any place here?
I'm sorry?
Are you gonna have to move any place off the
No,
property?
the construction sequence is such that we will be living there through the entire thing.
Okay.
Which, it was not without its challenges, but that's another issue, but it's working.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else on the public safety building? Okay,
Everything's on schedule with the construction, all that kind of fun.
As of this morning, they're telling us they're on schedule.
Go to the capital outlay, see what we have back for you.
Wait, we can't miss 750. I know the select board already spoke about 750, but even at 5,000 in this budget, in the crisis we're under, do we really need new furniture?
It'd be pretty hard to occupy the building without a desk.
Well, don't you already have a desk?
We do, but I can tell you that, I'll use
Three new offices, there's
their offices, I mean,
4 additional bedrooms.
our desks today are the pressboard ones you order on Amazon. I mean, they're adequate for what they're being used for. I'm not sure they'd survive a move. The majority of the employees' desks, workstations, and so forth in the new building will be essentially part of the millwork, counter space and that sort of thing. But we felt, we started with 10, it was reduced to 5. We needed to have some money in the budget, assuming the construction schedule stays on schedule, October, November-ish of next year, we're gonna have to be in there and be able to function.
So you're saying November next year, so this isn't something we can push off one more year?
We're gonna need, we need something. I guess the number can be up for debate. We are in the process of working with CCI, the construction manager, to get a definitive list of what is a built-in, what comes with the building, what are we gonna be expected to provide.
So right now, do you have built-ins, or do you have more desks than the built-ins will provide?
In the new building or today?
No, today. Is everybody on a desk, or do you have
Essentially,
built-ins
everybody's
now?
on a desk today.
So,
Some of that,
so we'll have built-ins in the new building, so we'll have extra desks.
we'll have desks, they're not in the greatest of shape, but yes, you're not wrong.
But they could survive for a few months.
The new offices do not have built-in desks as of right now. They have built-in beds. He's talking about Kathy's office as a built-in countertop. I think that's the only one.
There's millwork in the lieutenant's office, too.
Don't believe so.
Jim, what's your plan for that building when everyone's, are you gonna do one big package for police and fire, for desk and all that stuff, or what are you anticipating?
Waiting to get the list together and make some educated decisions from that point.
So is this premature, in your opinion? Can we put that off for another year?
Wouldn't it technically be 2 months, right? Because you could put it in January of 25.
That's what I'm saying.
Does this also cover for a desk chair that just collapses? I mean, during the year? So there's things that break besides new buys, I guess.
Our intent right now, at least on the fire side, our conference room table in the training room and the chairs are no more than 2 years old. Those were gonna make the move. I don't wanna speak for the captain, but I think they may have some stuff that's coming over.
We have a lot of millwork on ours also, but our main building is not until 25.
Right. Because we're kind of working from the back forward, and they're in the more forward part. Because of dispatch and so forth, that's kind of the last thing to make the switch.
If you look at 750, the document we just provided, it doesn't look like they've spent anything this year on furniture and fixtures.
And from now to the end of the year, there can't be any more expenditures there, right? So,
Yeah.
Bob, do you
I
have
guess,
a
I
motion
guess,
you wanna
this-
make?
I guess the sense you're getting is, it feels a little squishy. So what do you think we should do? What do you think?
We've got to move into the new building in
Right.
November of
Here's the thing.
2024. There's going to be cost associated with that move. There's whatever it is. There's lights in the bedrooms. There's desks in the lieutenant's offices. There's
But the question, but if I could, so, I know I got that. This conversation about the desk thing, and, you know, as I, it just feels that you poke on it, it just doesn't feel tight from a, and I got all of that, but is all of that gonna be answered by Jim telling you how much the bill of materials is gonna be to move you in cost? Is that all in that?
Jim might overrule me, but I don't think the desks and that type of furniture is included in the cost of the building right now.
I do believe I had that conversation when we had the warrant articles, that we knew that there was gonna be soft costs, we didn't know what those soft costs were gonna be, and I do believe that the captain and the chief just said that they're working on getting those list of soft cost items with CCI at this time.
So why don't we revisit it?
I'll do a motion to take up $4,600
Take off.
and give them the same $400.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
What, how much?
Make it back what it is, regular $400. The reason I'm doing this, I don't want to do piecemeal, where the fire department gets $4,000 for their shit, their new desk, and the police department needs stuff. Let's do it all together and put it in there and be done with it in one swoop. You don't have to worry about it.
Respectfully, that's not gonna work, because we move in a year before they do.
Yeah, they do. That's the challenging part. They're gonna have a lot more offices coming into the next year, where we move in 25.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So let's just back out of this conversation just for a second. How big is this thing that we're trying to dimensionalize? Is it a $5,000 issue, $50,000 issue? Jim, I mean, when you think about all these costs that are going to be incurred, is it going to be a small amount of money, big amount of money? Big being 50, small being 5.
I would think it'd be close to 50 by the time we're said and done.
So if it's going to be that big, all right, now getting back to what John was saying, I mean, is it possible that we can table a few of these things, mentally just table a few of these things, and roll them up and get a handle on that, maybe not in the next couple of weeks? Is that going to create a problem for you guys if we just say back out, figure out what the big nut is, figure out how we want to fund that, but meanwhile, we're not going to do these other things? That going to be a problem?
I think it's a matter of degrees. For example, I'll be honest, I was somewhat surprised to learn that we won't have a stove unless we buy one.
I got one.
So, the hood and the stuff that goes with it is part of the building, and that's okay. We've got to at least have the ability to move in and function when the day comes. We have a 30-inch residential stove today, which is not, I guess I'm going to have to say it, as has been pointed out for years, is not legal in the setup it's in today from a code perspective. It is what it is.
Question, John?
Yes, sir.
Question for, I guess, the town manager. Jim, when we talked about the soft cost portion of that warrant article, is there a definition of what's in those soft costs? To the point, furniture, all that kind of soft cost stuff not related to the building itself?
No, the conversation was the soft costs are not included in this warrant article, and we anticipate those costs being figured out as the building is approved, and then as construction begins. And we might have been able to absorb a lot of these soft costs if we didn't get hit with a $300,000 increase in steel. That hit us, that hurt us, and it's put us in a vulnerable position to be able to upfit. Therefore, we did some value engineering to back a lot of items out of the project or reduce the quality. And as you stated, waiting for CCI, the chief, and the captain to finalize the list so we can come up with an estimated cost as to what it's going to be, and then it's a mechanism of finding out where that money may come from. I know the deputy has talked about trying to seek donations for certain components, whether it's a stove, whether it's a fridge, whether it's chairs, whatever it may be, but we do have an obligation to fulfill some parts of this going forward.
Oh, I agree. I'm just asking the question whether the furniture and fixtures needed in the new building were part of the soft cost calculations in the project.
No.
Thank you.
So can I ask how old your stove is?
Current
It's obsolete.
It's gotta be 20-year-old
15 to
electric
20
stove.
years old. It's
Okay,
electric range.
I'm gonna withdraw my second. I'm bringing it down.
And just a quick question, so this $5,000 will cover everything you need to do your section of the new building? You don't need any other money after this?
No, this was to get us from October, November-ish to a point where we can function and by then presumably have the list and have a plan building-wide.
How is that number determined? I mean,
To be honest, we searched around and got some general prices from vendors on stoves and refrigerators and, you know, general stuff, desks and so forth. We originally proposed 10, it was reduced to 5, and that's where we sit today. Understanding, you know, we don't, you know, we put that in there knowing this conversation had to happen. You know, hopefully, presumably, the 5 would get us over the hump to the point where, you know, we get into 2025 and have a more robust package that addresses the building, quote unquote.
Anyone else? There's no motion anymore, so.
I'd like to make a new motion though. How much is the stove that you need?
Well, we haven't specified a specific stove. We were asked in relation to the size of the exhaust hood and so forth, which is part of the building.
Yep.
What we did, I did a reasonably quick search. We came up with a stove that would fit in the hood that has been designed. It was in the $4,000 range, as I recall. 4-burner propane stove with an oven and one of the griddle attachments in the middle you can move around.
Do you have any motion, Bobby? You all set?
This is so hard because it's little things like this that I honestly fear that the people of our town are going to look at things like this and say, we're giving them the new building, it's November, why do they need new desks, why do they need new things? And so these are the little things that when I look at them, like obviously I didn't touch your salaries. I mean, my house is burned down, I want you to come and put it out. But when we're talking about a desk, when we have more desks and whatever, but now you're talking about a stove, and that's obviously a different story. You're talking about safety or whatever else. It just seems with our, I'm asking a question, Don. It just seems with how much we're hurting and how much we're asking of the people in our town, is this an area where you can give a little more? I mean,
this is kind of implied before, I guess I feel the need to say it. I would ask respectfully, you look at our original requests and how we got to where we are today, up to and including yesterday where we gave approximately $25,000 back to the taxpayers. I know it's not your intent, but the implication comes off that we're not concerned about the tax rate, and that couldn't be farther from the truth.
I'm not saying that.
I understand that.
And earlier I said no to chopping.
No, I understand that.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that is this the area, to me, the salaries weren't. But to me, this might be an area where you could say as a community member, you know what, maybe those desks can move over.
At the end of the day, if we have to move the desk, we're going to move the desk. I don't know how else to put it. We're in the business of adapting and overcoming. That's what we do. You know, we started this with the intent of, you know, let's try to outfit the building in a manner that will hopefully last for a number of years going forward. If, you know, because of budget constraints, we end up bringing some of the existing furniture over, that's what we're going to do. I mean, because we have to function in the building at the end of the day.
I look at the $5,000 as an emergency fund for the first 2 years you get up and operating, because you don't know what the hell you're gonna need in the new building. You're gonna have more bedrooms, you're gonna have an unequipped kitchen, or you're gonna be bringing over a stove that might not even work. You may need a bigger refrigerator, you're adding manpower. I don't see it as a crazy unreasonable request. 10 was a lot, we cut it in half.
Sure.
The board did.
And you're allowed to say no.
Okay, Paul, you all set?
I just want to I have a counter thought on this. Fire and police and our highway department are as the core of our town. We should be making sure that we invest in that core. It strikes me that the town manager gets a big vote, and the Board of Selectmen does, but the town manager gets an awfully big vote in terms of what he believes, how that investment should play out. It strikes me that that's what he has done. And I'm not interested in messing around with, no disrespect, but a couple of $1,000. I'd be interested in if we were talking a couple $100,000, because then we could be talking about meaningful things, in my opinion. But I'm not interested in messing around with it. Now, my advice to you is find a way to move the desk. Just find a way, right? This was 15 minutes of, can we move a desk?
If I could, the chief just made comment about, how conscious he is of the taxpayer and the fact that he gave up $25,000 yesterday, which we appreciate in trying to cover this shortfall. I would remind you that last year they came to you in the budget process with a capital outlay of $15,000 for rescue equipment. In the interest of removing that from the tax rate, we found the $15,000 in the 2022 budget. We spent it, we got them the equipment they needed without putting it on the 2023 budget. We do that for all of our departments whenever we possibly can if we have a balance of funds available left. And we would have done that this year, but guess what?
Stuff happens.
It's not happening. Can we do it next year? I hope so. But I'm sorry, I'm very aggravated.
Well, the stove changed it. I mean, the stove changed it. I get by the stove, but the desk, that was.
I'm gonna make another motion here. Just gonna jump around. I'm gonna go to 380 outside services hydrant, where we pay $324,450 every year for hydrant maintenance. Currently, there's a capital outlay for hydrant replacement for $20,000. I think that should be covered under the $324,500 that we give, $450 should be covered under that, and not a capital outlay for $20,000.
I'm not sure I followed you.
Go to the fire department, outside
Yeah,
services.
yeah, I
We
got
pay
it.
$324,450 for hydrants, and that's supposed to take care of hydrants. There's a capital outlay for hydrant replacement for $20,000. I feel that should be covered under the $324,450 that we currently pay for hydrants.
It's two different bank accounts. That's the enterprise fund. It's not the general fund. It does not hit the taxpayer. The hydrant replacements do not hit the taxpayer.
Well, then why are we paying $324,450? It's my understanding that's all.
For hydrant system.
For replacement and everything, painting and the maintenance and all that.
If that money goes into the water fund, and that water fund money is then used, and now they're going to replace the hydrant with it, it's just through another mechanism. That $325,000 takes care of your water and your system, your whole network.
And I believe Rod will speak to the fact that those hydrants are identified as lead hydrants, which have to be either removed or replaced. So if we want them removed, we'll remove them.
What are we getting for the $324,000? Just, we're paying for that system.
That's
part
what
of it.
the consultant said we should be paying as a percentage of the hydrant fees for ever.
Can I try it, John? Because maybe I'm confused, but
You go ahead.
that money is revenue into the water department. Am I correct?
Right.
That revenue into the water department is to cover the cost, and there's no margin on that cost from the water department. It is a direct, there's no cross-charging with a little margin in it. That's a direct cost into the water department. So if we have a beef about that number, we should take that conversation up with the water department. That'd be my advice, because that number, and actually Rod would tell you it's probably too small, but that's a different discussion for another time. The hydrant replacement is something that Steve and Rod have gone around and looked at, and they pointed them out. You've got these little hydrants they have these black things underneath them. That's lead pipe. And unfortunately, that lead pipe also finds its way down into the water system. So is it going along, Jim, that we're going to be replacing these hydrants as we do highway work on the water side? Or water work on the water side?
That's correct.
Yeah, so it's kind of there's a three-fer here. Hydrants are going to get replaced because they're going to be replacing water lines. That's going to be, that's on the enterprise fund, but this money that's being charged to the fire department to go out and bleed off the hydrants, how many gallons you do, that's a direct cost right into the water fund. So I don't know where did I miss it? Did I get the transaction wrong?
You're right. Nope, you got it right. I thought we would never, ever talk about hydrants again.
So did I.
That's until you got me back.
I am so
Now you got me
sick of
back.
hydrants. Enough.
More than happy to take it out.
Holy
Now you
cow.
got me back.
Hey, here's a question.
Any capital stuff we need to deal with?
Here's a
Yeah,
question, can you use the, any of the supplies from the police department when it is being demolished and repurpose them in the fire department temporarily?
If you're walking
What
around
do
with
you mean by supply?
Desks, chairs, other things, maybe to help?
They're still gonna be living there, Brian.
Yeah, they're,
We're moving on. We can still have it.
Do you have anything else?
No, I believe that you canceled next week's meeting. I don't know if there's been a plan to reschedule it or.
I'm working on it.
No, I know.
It's December 5th meeting, right?
Yeah, that's next week.
Casey, do you have anything?
When was that moved
See
to?
what it says about the.
Ian has not, I have not yet.
Okay. I mean, I have.
How about the board of selectmen? Do you have anything?
I have something.
Okay, would you like
I
to
would
say?
like to follow up on Robin's concern about the boards and the amount of money that the town is not receiving for the rental of those boards. I went and did some research. Before the rink was taken down, there were 8 boards. And we received less than $10,000 a year, and I got that confirmed from Christine. The Friends of Pop Oil came before the Board of Selectmen, and they were given permission to have 3-year contracts for boards and to sell banners. The board agreed that the Friends could sell the boards and banners, and in the first 2 years, the Friends would get the money for their capital campaign, and in the 3rd year, the money would go to the town. At this time, the Friends had sold 35 boards, 12 banners for a total of $47,000 per year. So next year, the town and the taxpayers will get $47,000 from the work that the Friends have done.
And that will
37,
reduce
'cause 10 is
their
already-
obligation.
Yeah, so,
37 net.
no.
37 then.
Yes, that year.
Okay.
2 years they've gotten it, you'll get 47. So it is a good deal for the town, and it's set up so the town for the next 3
Well,
years.
except for
could-
Chuck Smith technically could have done a fundraising project. I mean, we have a full-time employee there who could have also done that.
Well, they had not, that wasn't there. I'm just saying that they have produced a fair amount of money in the future to help run that, along with selling the center ice and the blue circles, which all can be done in the years to come. So they helped set that enterprise fund up.
Okay, does anyone have anything else?
You got public input too.
Yeah.
Small matter, I think you postponed from last night, the meeting notes for November 16th, are we gonna postpone again?
Does somebody
Minutes
have those?
consideration. You had minutes consideration on last night's agenda, and you didn't do it.
That's not mine.
So the 16th,
Is everyone familiar with the notes and a chance to review them?
yes.
Okay.
Move to approve the minutes of November 16th.
I have a change.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Page 5, it just doesn't, we don't have a second on the November 8th. It was moved to approve.
Yeah.
Budget committee minutes are submitted, blank seconded.
Yeah, I got that already.
We figured it.
Oh, okay.
What else do we have for changes? Any other changes?
Yeah.
Move to approve with those changes.
But I'll take it.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Matt, did you second that?
No,
Oh, I did, okay. Any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Anything else?
Any public input?
Public input, yes.
Our public is here. Does our public have any input?
Granddaughter?
Oh, she's leaving.
Suzanne, you all set?
Put it that way.
How's that
Suzanne?
possible?
Suzanne?
She's all set.
Public input, Suzanne?
What's the other side, November? No, they just did.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 14th.
We have November 14th minutes.
Okay, November 14th minutes.
Why don't I have those?
14th, that's a mistake.
Oh, the 14th, I think.
Hold on a second, guys.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I don't have the November 14th.
I don't have the 14th either.
You already did
publish
that,
it
I thought. Yeah, she
What?
did. She did, I see
It's
it.
on the minutes.
Let it
Oh,
go.
I was looking up.
You said 8
We
and
did
14
that.
out at the same time.
Okay,
We
14th
did,
is all
yeah.
set.
14 was awesome.
Shameful stuff.
Yeah, 14th was done.
Okay, anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn
Can we go to the 16th or not?
No, we're all set.
in a
Okay,
second.
thank you.
We're all set.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, everyone.